That is what I was starting to play the banjo against in the 60s. Just so you know. I don't know where I was coming. Well, I was coming from Orange County, California. That was even another strike against me. I don't know what I was thinking. Oh, the banjo will be good to play, and maybe I could play on instruments and whatever. So I started playing the banjo kind of like this. Song on TV, a ballad played on the banjo that brought all of America together. You heard all those licks and all those songs. This is, what, in my opinion, a more important piece of music. You might remember this ballad. Ready? Here we go. My people. Yeah, you are remembering something. And as I get underway here, we got a long show tonight. I got some wonderful pickers with me. I want to know what kind of people I got. Let's see what you do remember. I'll slow it down a little bit. Now help me out. Listen to my story. Not that fracking stuff either. Isn't that a good word? You can say that in church on Sunday. Hello, Father, I've been fracking lately. What? Sounds like a 60s therapy session in here. You're doing really good. Let's finish it off. Next thing you know. I feel kind of sorry for you, actually. You don't know the whole national anthem, but you do know that. Help me out. Thank you and good night.
When we started, I was the oldest guy. I was 20 years old. And one guy was a junior in high school, one was a senior, one was a first year of college, I was in my second year. Nobody knew what to do. We were just trying to not have to go to school and keep our one-way deferment in some way, you know, to stay out of Vietnam. And a bunch of hippies playing jug band music with a couple other folk songs and folky songs, and some that were written by friends and some that we were trying to find. And so we were just lucky and persistent in not having jobs so we could play music and try and make that work.
Please make welcome to the stage Mr. Matt Cartsonis. Well, Buy For Me the Rain came out. That was a song that got on the radio. Anybody remember that song? All right. It's the one that went, buy for me the rain, my darling, buy for me the rain. Buy for me the crystal pools that fall upon the plains, and I'll buy for you a rainbow and a million pots of gold. Buy it for me now, dear, before I am too old. Because of that record, we ended up starting to go all over the country. Mr. Merle Travis was our first important job. We opened for him for 10 days. 10 days at the Ash Grove. Anybody go to the Ash Grove? And this is the first time I heard this song. Yeah, I'm a pilgrim and a stranger traveling through this wearisome land. I've got a home in that yonder city, good Lord, and it's not,
oh Lordy, it's
not made by man. Well, I've got a father and a sister who have gone to that sweet home. I just pray that I can go and see them, good Lord, over on,
oh Lordy, over
on that other shore. Get it, Matt. That's Mr. Matt Cartsonis. Another one. When I go down to that river of Jordan just to bathe my weary soul, well, if I could touch but just the hem of his garment, good Lord, I believe.
oh Lordy, I believe.
Well, he could make me whole. Now when I'm dead, laying in my coffin, all of my friends, all gathered. Both of my friends all gathered around.
I'm a Gemini.
They will say that he been laying there sleeping, good Lord, sweet peace.
Oh Lord, sweet
Yeah,
peace.
his soul is found. Yeah, I'm a pilgrim and a stranger traveling through this wearisome land. Jamming home. Thank you very much. Please make welcome to the stage a fine fiddling friend of mine, Mr. Craig. Oh yeah, Craig Eastman. Yeah.
That's him.
Well, back in the day we were playing with Mr. Travis, the Dirt Man made an album that had Buy For Me the Rain on it. Then we made 3 others that didn't do much. We ended up doing Paint Your Wagon, the movie where we got to watch Lee Marvin sing with Clint Eastwood. That'll give you nightmares. No, but Paint Your Wagon was a lot of fun. We spent 4 months on the set in Baker, Oregon. Then there was a song that Mr. Mike Nesmith brought us, It goes like this. If you remember it, sing along.
Tell me just one more time the reason why you must leave. Tell me once more why you're sure you don't need me. Tell me again, but I don't think you'll convince me. You said about falling in love again, you'd rather be dead. When someone breaks your heart, you cry your eyes red. There's nothing so hard about the life that you've led. As far as I can see, there's no reason for goodbye. You're just running scared, and that's something I won't buy. So you lose, I won't let you go. There's nothing to show but more blues. All that talk about leaving is strictly bad news. So you settle down and stay with the boy that loves you.
Oh, Craig. Keep it going, Craig.
As far as I can see, there's no reason for goodbye. You're just running scared, and that's something I won't buy. So you lose, I won't let you go. There's nothing to show but more blues. All this talk about leaving is strictly bad news. So you settle down and stay with the boy that loves you. Yeah, you settle down and stay with the boy that loves you.
Get it, man.
Oh, you settle down and stay with the boy that loves you.
One night, Jeff was driving home after rehearsal for that Uncle Charlie album, and he came in the next. We were actually rehearsed, 1970. Yeah, we know what to do. For 5 months, we played 10 hours a day, 6 days a week. We made 4 albums that did not much, and we wanted to do something. We wanted to be on the top 10 somewhere. And we were rehearsing in the Jukebox Factory in Long Beach. Les's dad owned the jukebox company. Distributed them. And one day Jeff came into a rehearsal. And I heard a song on the radio last night. It's perfect for me. And I only heard half of it. It's something about a dead dog and a dancer, and I don't know who wrote it. And Jimmy Evans says, it's in the record collection in the trunk of my car. He had his entire record collection in the trunk of his car. It was one record, 145. And it was that song, Underneath the Spare Tire, with rust on the grooves. And Jeff cleaned it off, and he learned it, and my God, did that change things for us. And thanks to you people that are clapping now. I haven't even started the song, and people usually clap more when you start it, but I'm just kind of mentioning it, like a friend of it. Well, we loved it too. We didn't think it would be a hit. The record company said, we're putting it out. And that song was on the radio for a good 18 weeks, when usually a record was on for 12 weeks. And by week 18, it had made it to number 16 on the charts. And the record company said, well, it was a good run, but it's over. The next week it went up to number 14. Hey, everybody, you thought you knew, it's not over. Well, the next week it went to like 19 or something, or 17, whatever. And we started believing him. But the next week it went up to 13. And we're about week 21 now. And we wanted to be in the, hey, maybe it'll go to the top 10. Because you've never heard anyone say, hey, we got a top 13 record. Kind of gives it away. And they said, well, maybe if you play a Catholic school in Manhattan. A Catholic? Well, okay. I mean, we're pretty much doing what we were told. And, I mean, you'd do that, wouldn't you? If somebody said you could get in the top 10 if you do this. You wouldn't? Well, then you're not in the record business. So we did it, and there we were on a Friday at noon, getting ready to play in the lunchroom of a junior high Catholic girls' school. And it was like, okay, the record's been out, it's in the top 20, and we're playing a lunchroom? I mean, I have nothing against girls, Catholic schools, and all that stuff. Well, a little bit against school, but in walks the sister that was in charge. Oh, hello, sister. Oh, do you boys need anything? I was just curious, before we play, who else has played your lunchroom show? Oh, we've been very lucky. This year we've had the Jackson 5. And before that was Mr. Paul Simon. And, and early in the year, John McEuen. What a nice boy. You see, the guy that programmed ABC in New York, the kingpin station for the whole East Coast, his daughter went to this school. And ABC was not playing the record, and they weren't going to. Unless. And if ABC didn't play it, Boston wouldn't play it, BCN in Boston, or LS in Chicago, you wouldn't pick them all up. It wouldn't go to the top 10, period. The next Monday, ABC Radio. Here's a new song by the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band. I knew a man, Bojangles, and he danced for you in worn out shoes, silver hair and ragged shirt and baggy pants. He did the old soft shoe. Oh, he could jump so high, higher than anybody before or since. And then he'd lightly touch down. I met him in a cell in New Orleans. We were down and out. Yeah, he looked at me to be the eyes of age. Then he spoke right out. You know what he did? He talked of his life and what a life he'd had. It seemed like he'd been everywhere and done everything, and I was in jail for the first time. Not the last. Then he said his name, Bojangles, and he danced the lick across the cell. Grabbed his pants for a better stance so he could jump so high. Then he clicked his heels. Oh, he let go a laugh, one you could hear all the way down that cell block. Somebody down at the end said, "Who is that crazy old man?" So I told him, "Well, that's Mr. Bojangles. Mr. Bojangles. Mr. Bojangles. Dance." I told him to dance. Dance, Matt. local shows and county fairs everywhere he could. Throughout the South. And he spoke with tears about all those years, that little dog and him. All they traveled about. It was tears because that one true friend, his constant companion. One day that little puppy dog just up and died. For 20 years that old man grieved. You know his name? Come on. Yeah, I knew a man, Bojangles, and he danced for you. And thanks to Jerry Jeff Walker and all you people that called in to play it again, and a certain Catholic girls' school, he danced for all of us. Boy, were we lucky with that one. Thank you, Matt.
So are we.
You know, it's really an honor to cross paths with a song like that and have it affect people. It's something that it's hard to fathom sometimes when you're in the middle of it. But Bojangles, we found out a couple years ago, I mean, it happened, 2010, it was put into the Grammy Hall of Fame as one of the most important American recordings. And that's not something you pitch for or anything, it just happened. Oh, there is one thing that was hard to deal with. That one of the qualifications is a record that gets that honor has to be at least 40 years old. 40 years old? It's like Benny Goodman records, isn't it?
After Uncle Charlie, that led to Circle B Unbroken. Because of the Uncle Charlie and his Dog Teddy album having 3 hits on it, United Artists Records in LA, which was where our deal was, we were based out of LA, they would give groups more power or ability to say what they were going to do. My brother and I went in to have the meeting to say, we're going to make a record with Earl Scruggs and Doc Watson and Maybelle Carter and Roy Acuff and Merle Travis. The guy said, I don't know if I'm going to sell 10 of these, but okay, I'll put up the money. And he put up $22,000 to make a landmark album.
Yeah.
That man was Mike Stewart, he was president of UA at the time.
Right.
Now, the way that came about is Earl Scruggs had come to see us because of the Uncle Charlie album being played by his kids for him. He liked the group, much in the same way that my boys introduced me to the band Fish. And I ended up sitting in with them, and I'm on one of their CDs. But back in this time, he was familiar with the band. We played Nashville, October of '70, and Earl Scruggs came to the show.
Wow.
I don't say this arrogantly, I say it with pride that I asked Earl, why'd you come see this band of hippies playing this weird form of bluegrass occasionally? And I just Randy Lynn Rag was one of his hot tunes. And he said, I just wanted to meet the boy that played Randy Lynn Rag the way I intended to. Oh, okay. That led to a friendship, to where 6 months later, Earl was playing in Colorado, and I, after 5 nights of taking him back to his hotel, I said, would you consider Earl? I'm just wondering, would you record with the Dirt Band on a song? And he said, I'd be proud to. And that was totally because Jeff Hanna had picked the right songs to sing, and Jimmy Fadden played harmonica, and we had everything from auto harp, accordion, mandolins, banjos, and stuff. And he was comfortable with that. Now, Doc Watson was playing the same club a week later, and I went there, and Merle Watson was really excited about the idea. He goes, oh, Daddy needs this because the folk music thing is kind of over, and the shows have been going down a little bit. Anyway, so he introduced me to his dad, and he had the Uncle Charlie album, and he played some of it for Doc. And I said, Doc, we're making an album with Earl Scruggs. I was a little more
Confident.
bold. And we'd like you to be part of it. I put him on the phone that night with my brother who was in LA. And I was in Boulder, Colorado at Tulagis. And they talked for a while. That night on the phone, Bill says, I'm going to get Merle Travis. So Merle Travis was comfortable and familiar. And then Earl Scruggs. Earl, do you think you could get Maybelle Carter interested? Earl and Louise put together getting Jimmy Martin and Maybelle and finding Vassar Clements. Well, Earl knew about Vassar. And the album came together. Earl picked a bass player, and that was a great night. He took my brother and me backstage at the Grand Ole Opry, first time backstage. What better way to walk into the Grand Ole Opry, my hair's down to here, without a stage pass, but with Earl Scruggs, walking you right to the stage and, oh, yeah, boys, this is Junior Husky. Oh, it's awful nice to meet you, boys. Yeah, I'm looking forward to playing on this album. Earl's been telling me about it. I cut my teeth on a lot of these tunes, and I'm just looking, just a minute. He was backing up Ernest Tubb while he's talking to us. And I knew he was the right guy.
Yeah.
And Junior Husky was a magic bass player. Every note was perfect. And
Wow.
anyway, so that was, you were with the right group. And we were really afraid at first. I mean, what are we doing here? When these people came, some of them came in the studio. But that was settled within minutes because they were all such big fans of each other. Oh, Roy, I've always wanted to record with you. How long have we known each other? 30 years, never made a recording. Well, I'm looking forward to today. Oh, I've always admired your playing. And you know, everybody was a fan of each other.
For those of you, anybody here ever hear my XM radio show called Acoustic Traveler? There's one person who has to all right, good. I have a show, it's in its 8th year on XM. Very proud of doing it, it's fun. And this is the theme song from that show. A little bit different every time I do it. Let's see what we got tonight, boys. Acoustic Traveler. Craig Eastman. Matthew Cartsonis.
But along came 77, and the U.S. State Department had agreements with the USSR that they will bring over an American band, and they ended up picking us. We did 28 shows in a month. They were all sold out. They created an impact that was so strong because the audiences were anywhere from 1,800 to 4,500 seat situations. But it went over so well that they didn't let American music in for 8 years. It scared them. And, but there were things happening in Russia that just don't happen, so you didn't know what they were. There were people selling their timeshares tickets.
Oh, wow.
You know, you watch for 30 minutes and then you come out because because each ticket was equivalent to almost a month's salary. And see, Russia at the time was so, Soviet Union was so structured, so ordered, not that it's not now, but they had what was called Bones records. A Bones record, this is how hard it was to get music from other countries. Somebody would, if you brought something into the country that was anybody's album and it wasn't approved, you could go to jail. If you took rubles out of the country, you could go to jail. If you had foreign currency, possessed it, you could go to jail for 3 years, American dollars. So with that in mind, keep in mind it was equally hard to get stuff in. You can't order a book. You try to order a book or a record, contact somebody, you're trying to bring in you black market. We must investigate you and your family. Hey, it's a free country. Oh, it's not. Was not a free country. So Bones records came into being. Somebody would go to Germany, France, or England, and they'd go get x-ray film with chest x-rays. And they'd go somewhere where somebody had an album and they'd copy it over onto the film. They'd make a celluloid record. The bones now had grooves on them of the album. So when they took those through customs, they would look at them, well, it's x-ray. And then they'd get home and they'd take the Bones record, gather people in their house and say, okay, everybody ready to record? Here we go. Because you can only play it maybe twice.
We got to pick some bluegrass. When I was living in Orange County, California, there was music like this that helped take me away.
There's a well-beaten path by an old mountainside where I wandered when I was a lad. And I wandered alone in that place I call home, in those Blue Ridge hills far away. Oh, I love those hills of old Virginia. From those Blue Ridge hills I did roam. When I die, won't you bury me on a mountain far away in my Blue Ridge mountain home? My thoughts wander back to that ramshackle shack in those Blue Ridge hills far away, where my mother and father laid there to rest. They are sleeping in peace together there. Oh, I love those hills of old Virginia. From those Blue Ridge hills I did roam. When I die, won't you bury me on a mountain far away in my Blue Ridge mountain home? Oh, John. I return to that old mountain home with a sigh of a longing for days gone by. When I die, won't you bury me on that old mountainside? Make my resting place upon the hill so high. Oh, I love those hills of old Virginia. From those Blue Ridge hills I did roam. When I die, won't you bury me on a mountain far away in my Blue Ridge mountain home? When I die, won't you bury me on a mountain far away in my Blue Ridge mountain home?
About 1 in the morning, I'm coming back to my room because I'd been out at Red Square at midnight, walking around. So I'm walking back to the hotel, and my buddy with me, Gary, registered, took all the photos. We hear this music faintly, and we hear people stopping and talking really fast, and then they hear the music. We went found this broom closet that had the band in it. They were playing back Circle Being Broken and stopping and talking, and playing it again and stopping and talking. And playing and rewinding it and playing it again. And I finally knocked on the door and said, "What's going on?" Because I knew somebody spoke English because I'd spoken with them. We listened to your music that you play on stage, and we can. This is really tough for me right now to think of because I can remember. We can hear the freedom of your country in the way that you play and sing. We hear the freedom of America, and we do not have that. We cannot. I can tell that you were not doing what you were told to do. Or, you weren't told to do what you were doing.
Right.
I can hear the freedom of America in your band. Oh. And that was like, oh my God, this was the beginning of the tour. So you can damn well bet that I remembered what that guy said. I set up some lectures at music schools, 4 different music schools. After the first week, I went, there's more to do here. So in the remaining 4 towns, at one lecture, I was telling him about the Nashville number system. It's based on the scale, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 notes of the scale. Where if you're doing This Land Is Your Land, the guitar player will say to the other guitar player, oh, it's 1, 4, it's 1, 4, 1, 5, 1, 4, 1, 5. Or he might say, it's 14, 15, 14, 15. And I told him that's how they would just number the chords. So if somebody wanted to change keys, they just didn't have to write down. You're doing it in G and you want to do it in G sharp. You don't have to write down all these weird looking chords and figure them out. You just do the numbers. Because they're the same numbers no matter what key you're in. Well, how do you know what notes to play when the numbers are in front of you? Well, you play what you want. Well, no, but how do you know what notes to play? How do they know what? I said, well, the musician that's playing guitar, you say, play lead. Well, what does he play? He plays what he thinks is good. When I finally got that through to 400 people, they got a standing ovation. Like for a minute. Oh, these people just went nuts. They're in music school, right?
Love it.
And that's quite a responsibility to then be representing that,
That's so inspiring.
I'm not half the fiddle player Craig is, and I know what one of his big influences was a man named Vassar Clements, and I know you know his name. Now, I didn't know who Vassar Clements was, but I asked Earl Scruggs if he'd make an album with us. He said yes, and I asked Doc if he'd do that, and I said, well, we're recording with Earl. We want you there. And he said, well, I'll be there. And then a couple weeks went by, and I called up Earl, have you found fiddle players that can handle the album, all the different styles? And he said, I found one man. His name's Vassar Clements. And I hadn't heard the name. I'd heard his music because he was on countless bluegrass records. And Earl Scruggs didn't use a lot of words to get the point across. I asked him, well, can Vassar handle all the styles? And he said, he'll do. And when he said that, I knew that Vassar would. And he set the benchmark for fiddle playing and was a dear friend to all of us, anybody he met. And I asked Vassar a few years after, he could play things that even he couldn't play. That's how good he was. I asked him one time, I was recording him on a film score project, and he was out in the studio just frying away about 4 years after the Circle album. No, 5 or 6. Way up here. And I said, Vassar, come in and listen to what you just did. He stood there with his fiddle and he said, Dad Bam, I don't reckon how anybody could do that. And he meant it. He wasn't being arrogant or anything. Well, try it, Vassar. He couldn't get anywhere near what he was doing with his eyes shut out in the studio. I asked him if he wanted to go to Japan that year with us. Vassar, you want to go to Japan for a month? Dad Bam, be glad to. He always said Dad Bam. I don't know what. Never heard anybody else say it. And it fit everything. We're in Japan for a couple of weeks, and Vassar, what you looking at in that window? He goes, that Dad Bam watch right there. He wanted to buy this watch, and we surprised him a couple of days later and bought it for him. Vassar, the boys wanted to get you that watch as a thanks for being here. Oh, Dad Bam. And he didn't use a lot of words. They elected me to see if the watch was working right, if it was the right one, because he didn't say anything about it for a week. I went up to him and said, hey, Vassar, how's that watch doing for you? And he said, like, Western Union called me this morning to see what time it was. I said, Dad Bam. Well, I found out that Vassar was born in 1928, the same year a story I want to tell about a fiddle player, the same year the story was written. And the way I found out was I was writing an obituary for him a few years ago. He left us. He's, I don't think he said Dad Bam, but anyway, this story was written the same year Vassar was born, 1928. Sending it out to him and all those people he influenced. Anyway, good boys. Up in the mountains, it's lonesome all the time. Up in the mountains, it's lonesome for a child. Whippoorwills call as the sap runs wild. Up in the mountains in the fog, everything's as lazy as an old hound dog. Now, I was born in the mountains, never raised a pet. I don't want nothing, haven't got it yet. I was born in the mountains, lonesome born, raised in ragged with the cockaburs and corn. Never knew my pappy. Maybe I never should. I think he was a fiddle. Made a mountain laurel wood. I never had a mammy to teach me pretty please. They told me she was a whippoorwill, a skipping through the trees. I never had a brother, never a whole pair of pants. When I'd start to fiddle, they said, they had to start to dance. Look, hey. Listen to my fiddle, kingdom come. Hear them frogging, shucking, jug of rum. Hear that mountain whippoorwill being lonesome in the air. And let me tell you how I traveled down to the Essex County Fair. Now, Essex County, well, they got a mighty pretty fair. All the smarty fiddlers in the South come there. Their elbows are flying as they rosin up the bow for the first prize contest in the Georgia Fiddlers Show. Well, there's old Dan Whelan, whiskers in his ears, been the kingpin fiddler nearly 20 years. Big Tom Sargent with his blue wall eye and little Jimmy Weezer. Huh. Now, he can make a fiddle cry. Everyone sitting around spitting high and strutting proud, tuning and tuning. Well, the judges told the crowd, well, them that gets the mostest clap, they'll win the bestest prize. Everybody's waiting for that first tweedledee. Here comes a stumbling hillbilly me. I bowed right pretty to the judges and the rest and took a silver dollar from a hole inside my vest and plunked it on the table. And I said, well, there's my calling card, and I guess anyone that licks me, they're going to have to fiddle hard. Old Dan Whelan, he was laughing fit to holler. Little Jimmy Weezer yelled out, there's one dead dollar. Big Tom Sargent just had a yellow toothy grin. So I took my whippoorwill spang and petted it and tuned it. Waited for the judges to say, begin. Well, Big Tom Sargent, he was the first in line. He could fiddle all the bugs off a sweet potato vine, fiddle down a possum from a mile-high tree, fiddle up a whale from the bottom of the sea. Yeah, you could hear hands clapping till they spanked each other raw when he finished his variations of turkey in the straw. Little Jimmy Weezer, he was the next to play. He could fiddle all night, he could fiddle all day, he could fiddle chills, he could fiddle fever. He could make a fiddle rustle like a lowland river. He could make a fiddle croon like a loving woman. And they clapped like thunder when he finished strumming. Well, then came the ruck of the bobtailed fiddlers. You know, the Let's Go Easies and the Fair to Millers. They got their claps and they lost their bicker. And they all settled back for some more corn liquor. But the crowd got tired of their no-count squealing. And out in the center stepped old Dan Whelan. He fiddled high and he fiddled low. Listen, Will, you gotta spread your wings. He fiddled and he fiddled with a cherrywood bow. Hey, old Dan Whelan must have bee honey on those strings. He fiddled the wind by the lonesome moon. He fiddled a most almighty tune. He started fiddling like a ghost. He ended fiddling like a host. He fiddled north and he fiddled south. Fiddled the heart right out of your mouth. He fiddled here and he fiddled there. He fiddled salvation everywhere. And when he was finished, the crowd cut loose. I sat there wondering, what's she use? But I stood up pert and I took my bow and my fiddle went to my shoulder so, and I thought, well, there ain't no crowd to get me fazed. Because I was alone where I was raised, up in the mountains, so still it'd make you scared. Where God is sleeping in his big white beard. I thought, well, they fiddled the rose and they fiddled the thorn, but they haven't fiddled the mountain corn. They fiddled sinful and they fiddled moral, but they haven't fiddled the brushwood laurel. They fiddled loud and they fiddled still, but they still haven't fiddled that whippoorwill. So I started off with a dump diddle dump and all hell broke loose in Georgia. Skunk cabbage going by a beat-em stump. Whippoorwill, you're singing now. My mother was a whippoorwill pert. My father, yeah, he was lazy. But that hell broke loose in the news store shirt to fiddle all Georgia crazy. Swing your partners up and down the middle. Sashay now, listen to my fiddle flap that's flipping on a red hot griddle, and hell's broke loose, Fire in the mountains, snakes in the grass, change their mind, and oh Lord, let them pass. Go down Moses, set my people free. Pop goes the weasel in the old Red Sea. Jonah's sitting on a hickory bough. Up comes a whale. Where's your prophet now? Rabbit in the pea patch, possum in the pot. Thrash on my fiddle, and my fiddle's getting hot. Sing to the mountains with a whippoorwill. Sing to the valleys and slap them with the hill, because you're strutting high as an eagle's quill. And hell's broke loose, in Georgia. There wasn't a sound. When I stopped bowing, there wasn't a sound when I stopped bowing. But somewhere or other, the dawn was growing. I knew I fiddled all night and lost. You fiddled all night and lost, hillbilly. You're pretty good, but you've been bossed. So I went over to congratulate old man Dan. But right when I walked over to him, he reached out and he puts his fiddle into my hand. That's when the noise of that crowd began. Thank you very much.
See what happened when we were growing up? That rock and roll is a communist plot to overthrow America. And the Russians were saying that rock and roll is an American plot to overthrow communism. Well, they were right. Only it wasn't a plot, but it sure did it.
Yeah.
And it really is credited with freeing the people up. American music brought down the Iron Curtain.
Also, it was a great pleasure. I would like to have you make welcome my two sons, Jonathan and Nathan, are going to come out and do a couple with us. Thank you very much. Thank you, Jonathan. Got a special friends here tonight, the Flanagan family from Santa Barbara. He's been following me, and first time I met him was in 1972 at the Golden Bear in Huntington Beach. Anybody that's been paying to see me that long deserves to hear a song he asked for, and this is it. give a nice hand to Jonathan and Nathan for helping out. Can you hand me my banjo, Matt? Banjo? We can't get much further without playing a bluegrass tune. Oh, wow. Thank you all very much. It's Matt Cartsonis, Craig Eastman, Jonathan and Nathan McEuen. Thank you.
John McEuen, everybody. Thank you. No.
When I was 19 years old, my brother and I went to the Grand Ole Opry. We got there just in time. And right when I looked in, Lester Flatt and Errol Scruggs said, "We're going to bring out Mama Maybelle Carter to do the Wildwood Flower." And it was the most moving piece of music. I mean, I wanted to see them. I didn't know they were even there. And then 44 years later, I'm standing on that stage next to Mr. Scruggs' casket. The family had me play at the memorial. And but the most moving piece of music that I got led to after that, I mean, it was wonderful being part of that. But I got a phone call a couple of years ago from a lady with a really high voice that wanted me to play at her husband's funeral. And she said he'd been doing the voice of Mickey Mouse for 35 years. And she auditioned for the job of Minnie 30 years before this phone call, and she got it. And they got married. Only Disney wouldn't let them say it in public for about 3 years because they didn't want to see Mickey and Minnie get divorced. But Russi Taylor, at the time Russi Allwine, wanted me to play Wayne's banjo, and she's become a good friend of the family. My daughter came to watch me play at Forest Lawn in Burbank, and in front of the Disney crypt. And what I'm telling you this about, you people have given me this life. I mean, if nobody bought a record or anything, I'd be sitting in Garden Grove. And I'm thanking you for it. And just so you know some of the strange places you've sent me, okay? And I did about a 20-minute set right next to Wayne's casket. And Minnie was there, but also Goofy, Pluto, Donald, Kermit, and Gonzo. The people that did that was their world. There's about 45 people there. But it was a very strange thing because after the set, she hands me Wayne's banjo and says, "John, it's time to play the song." You know, and it was like, when you were playing that song, and Donald and Goofy and Pluto and you know, Gonzo were singing it, it was freaky. Especially when it got to the part. And it was like, you know, see you real soon. K-Y. Why? Because we love you. And she signals to lower the casket in the ground. Everybody was crying. And it was a wonderful moment. And 5 years after I saw Maybelle Carter, she said on that old record, I started it like this. There is a dark and a troubled side of life. There's a bright and a sunny side too. Though we meet with the darkness and strife, may the sunny side always come to you. Keep on the sunny side, always on the sunny side. Keep on the sunny side of life. It will help us every day. It will brighten all our way if we keep on the sunny side of life. Oh, the storm in its fury broke today, crushing hopes that we all held so dear. Clouds and storms, in time, they'll pass away. sun again will shine bright and clear.
Keep on the sunny side, always on the sunny side. Keep on the sunny side of life. It will help us every day. It will brighten all our way if we keep on the sunny side of life.
Everybody play. And right after we recorded that with Maybell, in walked Mr. Roy Acuff. And we weren't sure he was going to show up or not, because he'd said in the Nashville Tennessean that week, I don't know if they're old boys or young men or what, that nitty gritty dirt band. They were all covered with hair. But he showed up, and that's when we started the one that ended up, well. I was standing by my window on a cold and cloudy day when I saw that hearse come rolling for to take my mother away. Will the circle be unbroken by and by, Lord, by and by? There's a better home awaiting in the sky, Lord, in the sky. Well, I asked that undertaker, please drive slow for that body you are hauling, Lord. I hate to see her go. Will the circle be unbroken? By and by, Lord, by and by. There's a better home awaiting in the sky, Lord, in the sky. Thank you very much. Thank you.